As the protesters fled Wounded Knee, a triumphant Dick Wilson toured the remains of the town.
Dick, are you surprised at what you're seeing?
I expected this.
Why?
They're hoodlums, clowns. This is the way they live.
Not only was Dick Wilson still firmly in charge, he would exact revenge on his opponents as the federal government looked the other way.
The Oglalas don't like what happened. And if the FBI don't get them, the Oglalas will. We have our own way of punishing people like that.
Shooting on the reservation?
You said it. We'll take care of them.
After Wounded Knee was a period of time that the dissidents called the Reign of Terror. It was a time when Dick Wilson truly unleashed his forces on the folks who had supported Wounded Knee.
In the 3 years following the siege, 2 FBI agents and more than 60 AIM supporters were killed, giving Pine Ridge the highest per capita murder rate in the country. As the reservation spiraled into violence, the government went after AIM in the courts.
One thing that Wounded Knee gave the federal government an excuse to do was to try to litigate the American Indian movement out of existence.
You and your bunch of hoodlums take over down there. You destroy people's property.
Within months, more than 500 indictments were brought against AIM members, most on minor charges that were later dismissed.
They succeeded in tying up AIM in court, and AIM at this point, with all those resources going into court, lost its way.
AIM fell into disarray and violent infighting, and would never again have the impact it had in 1973. But the hopes inspired by the siege would echo in the decades to come. Despite the chaos that followed in its wake, Wounded Knee would prove to be a turning point in the history of Native people.
We need to let the rest of the world know what was going on. 2 states over, they had no idea about Indian people. We were just invisible. We were the ones that kicked the doors open on the Indian issue and let the world see.
The good that came out of Wounded Knee was the entry into American Indian political life of people who had not been there before, who had not had a real voice. People learned they could tackle problems, create opportunities, and I think that coming out of Wounded Knee, people knew they could make a difference.
There was a lot of sense of we're important and we can do something within our own people, our own tribe, our own homes. I didn't go back to what I was doing before. I felt maybe I can do something to help not only my people, but other people too.
Native activism would spur the revitalization of Native cultures. In the years following the siege at Wounded Knee, Indians would create tribal schools and cultural institutions charged with preserving Indian traditions and passing them on.
In the late 60s and early 70s, these were still emerging ideas about reconnecting with traditional culture, language, religion. That was starting to happen. But this became the majority sentiment in the space of just a handful of years. It was really about identity. It was about affirming we're still here, we want to be here, and we want to be here on our own terms.
Whatever went on in the 60s and 70s, it's an extension, it's a continuation. It's no different than what King Philip was about, or Crazy Horse was about. And whatever means and manner we could, since the Europeans arrived here, we've had to fight for our survival.
What the 1973 occupation did was people started saying, hey, we're Indians. It's okay to be Indian. We are Indian. We really should be who we are. The struggle that we have in the 21st century is to remain ourselves. Every one of us has to do our part to remain Lakota, to remain Indian, and to teach our children, to teach our grandchildren, and make sure that there will be children sitting in Sweat Lodge, standing at the Sundance in 1,000 years.